Great question. Thank you. I think Brand the Interpreter is a variety of different things, but it is indeed, at the end of the day, a podcast. And it's dedicated to being able to have a space to share the stories of other language professionals. I now say around the world, but when it first started, that wasn't the case. When it first started, my mind was just in the vicinity where I can commute to, because it was supposed to be an in-person experience. I was supposed to be able to interview other language professionals, where I could drive to them and bring my gear along with me. And then it just became this thing because of COVID, where I went online, and as a result of it, I started interviewing interpreters from anywhere in the world. So it's now a podcast, but it started as a presentation. So it was the
Okay.
title of a presentation.
Do you think that the podcast actually do you think that COVID made your podcast more popular?
Well, yes, I want to say, I think, if I really had to point out why suddenly everyone, not everyone, but there was more than I anticipated, more than the few people that I had told about, had to be because people were looking for some sort of entertainment or something to do, and perhaps it was the right opportunity, the right time, the right place and time for it to sort of reach a bigger audience.
Now, I love the name Brand the Interpreter. It's a great name, and I love the website. The website's very professional. You've got like the everything, like everything's well put together. But where did Brand the Interpreter come from?
It was this idea of being able to share the stories of professional interpreters within community settings specifically. It was born out of this notion of me being able to highlight the difference between a trained interpreter and a bilingual employee, for example, that is utilized to provide interpreting services. And so I sort of did this thing along with colleagues. It took a whole team, but I did this thing where it was like, well, why don't we highlight the difference between these by uh, sending out communications, internal communications to staff, and just really creating this idea of trained professionals versus bilingual individuals, and demonstrate what the difference is. And so it was like this, let's highlight our work, let's highlight our profession by creating different communications that say so, by demonstrating, so it was a variety of techniques. And so one day, years later, after we were able to centralize services within, it was a K through 12 public education school district. We were able to centralize services. We were able to, just create processes and procedures around the trained interpreter now. So not focusing only staff, meaning on bilingual staff to provide the service, but really thinking of our department first before they thought of any other resource, which was the goal. That was the end goal. And so one day it was like, well, there was a local conference for interpreters and translators in education. And so I thought it'd be great if I could maybe share it there. Well, actually, someone invited me if I could share it there. And I was just having such a hard time with the title, trying to keep it short. And I sort of mix the communications component, because I have a degree in communications, with how do people sort of highlight a product, or a service. Well, they brand it. And what does branding look like for a product or service? And so it just was like one thing that led to the other, and Brand the Interpreter, the title, was born.
Very
Well,
cool.
That was a slide deck.
and your podcast, were you trying to reach more of the interpreter community, the larger public? Did you try to more? Did you have more like educational components to make our work more understood? So how did you, and also at the same time, how did you make sure that you could brand yourself to a much larger public?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it was a combination again of different things, which is I say that because I feel like it's important that we all recognize that when we're trying to create something, particularly if in our mind is innovative, it's going to be a collage of your different skill sets. So I feel that in my case, I put together something that I felt was going to be for an audience such as myself that was looking for resources at one point out into the profession in the different areas of specialty that existed, because I was working in education, which at that time was not a standardized specialty area. And so there was sort of, sometimes I would reach out to someone that had created already the systems internally, and it was K through 12 related, and I would never hear back from them. So no one would ever, return my calls or my emails. If I was able to find some sort of information, it was scattered. And so it took me a few years to really put together information that fit the model that we wanted to create in this organization. And so I thought, it would be great if there was one centralized location in which we heard a variety of different stories, the different specialty areas of interpreting in one place, so that if someone is searching a how-to, they get it from the professionals themselves in one location. And so that was sort of my idea, was for other professionals that maybe, I don't know, wanted to break into, some sort of a specialty area. And there was an interpreter that had that experience and was able to share the story. That was as far as my mind went. And when I was thinking about the podcast, is would it be great if we can hear the stories of interpreters, how they created whatever it is that they created for themselves without having to wait for a conference, but having, it being able to just one click away and hear their stories and what their journey looked like. So that's really what it was for me.